Hi and welcome to my channel. This is Virginia. Today we'll go over the new moon in Leo happening on July 24 at 3:11 p.m. Eastern Time. New moons always mark new beginnings as the sun and the moon meet, serving as a portal for the energies of their zodiac sign, in this case Leo, and planting seeds for manifestation of all Leo rule themes, what I call a real Lion's Gate, where both luminaries conjunct in Leo. And it hasn't happened on 8/8 since 2021, and every year is different because the claim alignment of the 8/8 with the sun in Leo, Sirius, the Orion belt, and the Pyramids of Giza is not astronomically accurate. It's just a symbolic narrative rooted in ancient Egyptian practices associated with the rising of Sirius and the Nile, which doesn't happen today. But astrology was a way to predict weather back in the days. But I was invited to be a bit less technical, so I'll skip the details. The point is that if you want to do a manifestation ritual, this is the time to do so. Don't wait for 8/8, that is a numerology based on a faulty calendar anyway. Now, Leo is associated with the fifth house of creativity, procreation, and recreation. It's the house of fun, anywhere from creative outlets and hobbies to romance and hanky-panky to children and play. Leo also rules regal figures and is the way we shine, but we shine in the way of our sun sign. Like I shine as a Scorpio, and Scorpio rules the occult, and I'm doing astrology, for example. And Leo is ruled by the sun, which also rules your heart, so it's about following your heart. And the moon rules Cancer, where we have Jupiter exalted, and the moon is parallel Jupiter, which acts as a conjunction, magnifying the energy of the new moon. So the way we feel is big and is supported by the universe. This is like the universe conspiring on your behalf if you follow your heart. Now, for the collective, this is a new beginning associated with following your childhood dreams. It's a time to do what you love. Now, this is at 2 degrees, 8 minutes, and the Sirian symbol for this, we round it up to 3, and is a middle-aged woman with long hair in a braless, youthful garment. Representing the individual refusal to be bound by societal or biological standards. So this is a stand for independence, to free yourself and your spirit. The sun represents your soul. But the new moon is opposed Pluto in Aquarius, so we encounter resistance from others, either in the form of manipulation or envy. And this is a locomotive chart, and Pluto is at the head of it, driving the energy of the collective. So Pluto is a very important energy here. And we have to consider that wherever the sun is, from the perspective of the Earth, will reveal the energies of its opposite sign. As from Helio, which is the sun's perspective, the Earth is in Aquarius with Pluto. So we are dealing with a process of transformation. This energy is reinforced and is prompting us to change, but sometimes the resistance is ours and the others are just mirror, as when you change, the others have to change with you, or the relationships suffer changes. Especially because Chiron, the wounded healer, the place where we hurt and where we heal, is in a tense T-square with both the new moon and Pluto, representing relationships that get affected by this conflict, the tug of war between the new moon and the planet of death and rebirth. And both Sun and Chiron are moving slow, so we're taking our time with this matter. Now, the new moon is not alone in Leo because we have Mercury and it's retrograde, which is not bad. The worst of the retrograde aspect are the station periods where it doesn't go anywhere and it feels like stuck. But the retrograde is required to give things a rest, and all things RE, review, revise, reassess, reconsider, and if necessary to redo and correct that which is going in the wrong direction so we can redirect when Mercury goes direct. It's like the Shabbat for the Kabbalah. It's seen as a sacred time to realign with the divine energies, particularly feminine essence and to elevate the soul through contemplation, stillness, and unity with the divine. Is a pause from the mundane creation, allowing for a spiritual reflection, restoration, and reconnection to higher consciousness. And Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, our self-expression, where we find Uranus, the planet of upheaval, that is in a flow with this new moon. So when we follow our heart, we can shock others, but Uranus is in the apex of a grand sextile with the new moon and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, another signature for manifestation of something new being in the sign of Aries. But they're retrograde too, both of them, another signature for revising plans, so what we dream can actually become possible. And the Saturn-Neptune conjunction is also in the apex of another grand sextile with Pluto, the planet of transformation, also retrograde, reinforcing the energy of reflection required for transformation, and Uranus, the planet of surprises, and the only outer planet direct at 0° Gemini, the air sign of the mind. So this is like an epiphany, but Uranus is in this place for the next 7 years. And both grand sextiles are forming a cradle configuration for new energies to come to life. So this is like the support of the universe. And we have Venus, also in Gemini, representing what we love, in a T-square with the nodes of fate, past and future, helping us make the decision to choose different, especially because it's also in a square with Mars, the planet of action and cutting, which recently connected with the south node of letting go. So we're leaving something behind in the sign of Virgo, which is usually criticism and perfectionism that hold us back. Virgo is also associated with work, service, health, and routine, so we're changing that which doesn't longer serve us, or things can be cut out of us if we don't let go, because the universe gives you the opportunity, it gives you the energy for you to take matters into your own hands. But when you resist that, the universe has no other option to do it for you. So this is where it's better to take initiative and channel the energy of the gods rather than let it manifest in its own way where you have no control. Now, in the world, this new moon talks about matters related with prominent people, as Leo is the king of the jungle. So these are heads of states, kings, you name it. And Leo is in the 5th house of creation, recreation, and procreation. So it also talks about matters of sex and children. And with Mercury retrograde representing information, this also represents documents and files. No wonder they're changing the narrative in the Epstein case, but this will not stay this way, as Mercury will change directions again in August 11. But the whole Mercury saga goes from pre-shadow to post-shadow periods before and after the retrogrades, covering those same degrees where the themes will continue to make ripple effects. And with Mercury ruling the 3rd house of communication and Uranus being there, this is shock that could create upheaval. The truth is more shocking than we dare to think. And with Venus there too, we're not talking just about pleasure, but about luxury and money as well. If you care to know what I think, this is about control files. How you control the rich and powerful. This is if you have something on them. So you create the conditions, parties, hidden cameras, minors in skimpy clothes, drugs, alcohol, people get wild, and even if you're not necessarily participating in a crime per se, you're guilty by association. So what do you do in this case? Do you call the police on prominent people? Do you commit suicide like Anthony Bourdain after he was invited to the Epstein Island? Do you join them and return many times over like Bill Gates? Or you look away and never come back, like so many others. Now, we know Epstein was a CIA asset, and they're talking about possible ties with Mossad, but you have to realize that the power of the list remains in its secrecy. So if you come into power and promise to take them all down, then who supports your bills? But if you use the existing infrastructure to manipulate the powerful because you hold their dirty little secrets, then even controversial beasts pass seamless regardless of resistance. And you can still take them out eventually when your power runs to an end, but in the meantime, you can leverage the system that is already in place. But what do I know? Anyway, with most out-of-planets retrograde, Pluto, representing transformation, in Aquarius, representing the collective, Neptune, dissolving structures, represented by Saturn, all leads to a mass awakening that I think will take place on the perfection of such conjunction in February, especially with Uranus, the planet of shock, at 0 Gemini, the cardinal degree of an air mind sign that triggers critical mass. Critical mass is the minimum amount of energy required to elicit a catalyst reaction of change. They say that when 1% of the population awakens, that's a ripple effect that is unavoidable. With the changing of the scripts, what was real now is not, and vice versa, and not just with the Epstein files, but as I mentioned in my previous video, with Neptune representing weather and Saturn in Aries representing weaponizing, this is also about weather warfare. And right after my last prediction, we had a recent disclosure of cloud seeding tech right after we had the flooding of the Guadalupe River. Though I think that CEO is a small fish as he promotes the tech. But this magnitude of disaster has to do more with big fish like government contractors and the military-industrial complex, and that usually goes hush-hush. Yet sure, the CEO comes in handy to blame and deflect. And Texas is a sensitive point in the crossing of the pathways of the previous total solar eclipses. But if you follow Ariana Masters, she's a scientist that reports on radar capturing electromagnetic 5G towers activity and all the odd patterns per zone that correlates with weather mayhem. Anyway, the new moon and Venus, representing money, are at odds with Mars, representing cuts, which is in conjunctions with the south node of terminations in the 6th house of work and service, affecting those sectors, for which job cuts are coming, probably due to AI. And the 6th house is also healthcare, and we know that Maha is revolutionizing the healthcare industry, and the new moon in Leo representing the heart, the blood, and circulation. This is a new beginning that has a positive impact in our health, and the new moon is at odds with the north node in Pisces, also representing drugs and big pharma. And for the US, this new moon is at 2 degrees, which is a Taurus degrees, which is values in the 8th house of other people's money. And this brings me to something I want to recap from my last video, an important prediction that flew under the radar. The last full moon hit the US financial axis, and I mentioned other technicalities that made me suspect that we were at the verge of a financial reset/restructuring based on AI-driven economies, cryptocurrencies, and decentralized financial systems becoming mainstream. But we reached the development of a CBDC, that's a central bank digital currency, which is estimated to be linked with digital ID and digital payment system, and that's programmable money. I posted the video a day before the full moon, and a day after the full moon they shut down the Fed wire on a Friday night, and they launched the ISO 20022 on Sunday Eve to have it ready for Monday morning. This is not just an upgrade, but building the infrastructure for programmable money and digital surveillance. Yet, this is also an opportunity to position yourself with ISO-compliant assets like XRP, XLM, HBAR, and Algo, but not financial advice. And the Genius Act passed on July 17, and though it technically forbids CBDCs, it established a regulatory framework that enables the private sector stablecoins to function as such, sidestepping the need for a CBDC. So the ban on CBDC is almost bogus. And this is what I warned about. This is the pathway to a digital ID. And the problem with that is overreach. To have an idea how that could play out, look up the social credit system in China, where if you don't do as they say, they turn off your accounts. Kind of like what happened with the Canadian truckers. Anyway, this new moon is in the 8th house of investments, and other people's money is our money. And with Mercury, the merchant planet of contracts, this is related to smart contracts on the blockchain, as Mercury rules Gemini, and we have Uranus, the ruler of tech, there. And is squaring the US moon, which represents the population, so this might not benefit us. And this falls in the US 6th house of daily matters, work and service, where it will impact the way they implement payments. Especially because the new moon is opposed Pluto in Aquarius, which is the masses getting empowered and offering resistance to the leaders, represented by Leo. And transiting Chiron represent the wound in the 4th house of homeland for the US, squares the US Pluto and the US Mercury on the financial axis. And this has a corrective action. They present it as an upgrade to optimize payments, but this is really about expanding control. If we were to use the whole sign system, the new moon would be in the 9th house of foreign matters and belief systems, so we have to take that into consideration for a more layered interpretation. So hopefully some creative solution and new beginning that can help us deal with religious wars overseas, especially because Venus, the planet of diplomacy, is on the US 7th house of allies as well as foreign enemies, conjunct the US Mars, the planet of war, in Gemini, the sign of communications, but also transactions, where money talks. And this can be toning the heat down, as it's better to do business and work with each other than bomb each other. The problem is that with Uranus in Gemini for the next 7 years, and the Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Aries, which is ruled by Mars, the lesser malefic, and is conjunct the south node of things that go down, these are all signatures for war. Though Mars, representing also terminations, with the South Node also representing diminishing, could also end a war, hopefully, and transiting Mars in the 9th house of foreign matters, these are actions taken abroad that had mixed results because Mars is hitting the US Neptune, bringing confusion, and squaring the US Mars, bringing more conflicts. And transiting Venus, which represents diplomacy, is squaring the US Neptune, and the other way around, transiting Neptune also squaring US Venus. Now Neptune is with Saturn, and both are retrograde, and they're also squaring Jupiter. So the great conjunction is squaring both US benefics. So there's no clear path for diplomacy either. And the nodes of fate are hitting US Neptune. So the south node of letting go is hitting the US Neptune, which is confusion in the 9th house of foreign matters. And the north node of where we are heading is opposing it. Both nodes are squaring the US Mars, which is bellicose, in the 7th house of others and public enemies. So this is a hard ball. But thankfully, both benefics, Venus and Jupiter in the 7th house of others, which is also allies, and Jupiter being exalted in Cancer, protecting the homeland because Cancer is defensive, is going from the US Jupiter to the US Sun. So we can rise out of conflict or at least come on top. Anyway, this new moon will impact more early degrees of Leos and the other fixed signs like Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius, as this is squaring or opposing you. And it's going to benefit more early degrees of the other fire signs like Aries and Sag, because this is going to trine you. And if you want to know how this will play out for you, stay tuned for the horoscope sign by sign for your sun, moon, and rising for a more complete picture. And if you want to know what I'm doing in this new moon, I want to take the opportunity to share the launch of my new product. And this is the unboxing of my new book. And this is a book about you. Here will go your name, your natal chart, the table of contents, an introduction, my bio, your natal chart, 10 pages with all information about you that is worth it for a lifetime, your numerology with your personality number, your soul number, your destiny number, your career number, your missing number, your initials, your vowels, then your lunar progressions, that is like a chapter in your life with your natal moon and your progress moon. And then we have horoscope for a whole year, 1 month per page and 1 week per paragraph. And then you have other offers of my readings, my contact information, website, and social media. And that's it, folks. Contact me for your copy. If you have any comments or requests, feel free to add them below. If you need a private reading where I can help you the most, go to astrologybyvirginia.com and know that I will never reach out to you, so be aware of scammers. With that, I will leave you today. It takes me some time to make these videos and a sec to like, share the love, subscribe for more, and hit the bell not to miss out. Thank you for your time. See you in the next one. Namaste.